everybody for being here. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day. We're going to follow our usual format, which will be Mr. Ramos giving a statement. He'll introduce the people up front, and then we'll open it up to questions. And now, the District Attorney, Mr. Ramos.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, press, for being here this morning. I want to announce this morning that a special grand jury has indicted David Picotta, William Maddox, Russell Wilkie, Michael Stodell, Hobart Gray, Angela Gray, and Sally Ann Christian on a combination of perjury, grand theft, and conspiracy charges. The charged defendants are either current or former Sheriff Department employees. Some of this information, if not most of it, Susan, correct me if I'm wrong, will be in your press packets. The charges arise from the falsification of training documents, which resulted in eligibility for increased compensation and retirement benefits. Now let me talk to you a little bit about the timeline. Late in 2009, the Sheriff's Department came to one of my staff members, my executive staff members, indicating that there was an administrative personnel investigation occurring regarding these issues. At that time, because there was a personnel investigation, we decided to send the matter to the Riverside County DA's office, not to conduct a criminal investigation, and I know that speculation was out there, but to conduct an investigation that the state law requires that information regarding a personnel investigation and a compelled statement needs to be segregated from the prosecution, from the DA's office that's going to do the criminal investigation. So we took the proper steps to protect the integrity of our investigation and to abide by the state law and the Peace Officers' Bill of Rights. After that was done, the case then came to our office for the criminal investigation. At that time, under the direction of my Chief Deputy, Gary Fagan, who is here today, my Supervising Deputy, Michael Furman, we assigned the case to Special Prosecution Units, Dan Silverman, who is here with us today. One of the reasons we assigned it to Dan was being in the office for the amount of time he has been in the office, he did not know the suspects. So we had a very objective prosecutor that was going to review the case and review the investigation. Now we take over. And when I say take over, the investigation is now the District Attorney's investigation with the cooperation of the Sheriff's Department. We directed the witness interviews. We reviewed thousands of documents, as you can imagine, as we proceeded down the investigation, now it being a criminal investigation. I also want to thank the investigating sitting grand jury, not the indicting, but the sitting grand jury who assisted us with interviewing witnesses as we went through this investigation. We then made the decision to impanel a special grand jury, the grand jury that indicted these individuals. The reason we did that, there were multiple defendants, there were tons of discovery, thousands of pages, and it was going to be the most efficient process, as well as protecting the rights of those involved. That's why we chose a grand jury. At all times, I want to make this very clear, at all times, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department was cooperative. They processed things in a timely manner. They were professional. Anything we asked for, we were given. And I want to thank the sheriff for that. I want to thank the Sheriff's Department for assisting us in this investigation. With that, I'm now going to introduce our San Bernardino County Sheriff, Sheriff Rod Hoops. Rod?
Thanks, Mike. I want to thank the members of the press and the media for coming here today. This case began in late 2009. It was very complex, as Mike mentioned, very time-consuming. Our investigators, when Mike mentioned that it was handed over to the DA, it was actually our investigators, Sheriff's Department investigators, that were doing the legwork on the investigation. they had over 10 years of records to look at, records that our department had, and also records that Valley College had, records that Post had. So again, it was a very large volume of records that were looked at. In the beginning, it was mentioned that it was a personnel investigation. We weren't really sure in the beginning when it was brought to our attention what we had. As soon as we realized that it could possibly be criminal in nature, we changed gears and notified the district attorney's office that there could be possible criminal overtones to this. And as today's results will show you, whether you want to have 20/20 hindsight on how we conducted the investigation, I think if you look at the facts today, the investigation is complete. And basically what I'm trying to say is the investigation is complete, and it may have taken a little different way to get here, but it is complete, and we're very happy with that. Again, our district attorney was notified in the beginning of the possible criminal outcome. Mike and I talked a little bit about this. We realized early on in the investigation that this was not going to be a simple case. It was going to take a long time for the investigation to play out. It wasn't simply, go interview 5 people, go to the district attorney's office and get a filing. It was a very complex case. I want to assure the folks and the members of the public that we initially, when we found out what procedures could have possibly been violated in our department, that these procedures were immediately corrected when it was brought to our attention. We also believe we've identified all of the people that are involved in the case. If for some reason during the court proceedings, however that occurs, that there are other individuals that are identified, I can assure you that those people will be looked at as well. But at this moment, the case is complete, and we're very happy with it. Mike and I talked, my office and Mike's office talked about the correct way to deal with this, and we both came to the conclusion that the grand jury route was the best way to proceed. Also, we owe it to the citizens of San Bernardino County to go after any of the monies that were allegedly inappropriately obtained, and we have recovered some of the funds already, and we're in the process of doing things that we need to do, or during the course of this case. If there are funds that were inappropriately obtained, we will certainly go after the recovery of those funds. There's some thanks that I want to give out also. Certainly the members of our Sheriff's Department that came forward initially and brought this issue to our attention. They were very brave in doing so. I want to thank the investigators from the Sheriff's Department that conducted this investigation. I want to thank Mike and his entire staff for assisting. I want to thank the Riverside County DA's office for their initial involvement. I want to thank the grand jury for doing their job. I want to thank our partners at Valley College, because we are in partnership at the academy with those folks. I want to thank POST, which is Peace Officer Standard and Trainings, which is the oversight board in Sacramento that looks at all of our training. They assisted as well. In closing, I'd be lying if I didn't say this is a very disappointing day for the Sheriff's Department. These are not the type of things that, as sheriff, it's fun to stand in front of a group like this and say that this is what's happened. But if you look at the reality of it, we have 3,500 employees in our department. This Sheriff's Department will not be defined by the alleged acts of a very few number of individuals. So it's a sad day, but we're a big Sheriff's Department, and we're very successful, and we got a great department. And that is it. I guess we're open for questions.
Any questions?
How did this come to your department's attention?
It was brought to our department's attention by some employees within our organization that thought there might be some wrongdoing.
And did you know at that time that the wrongdoing involved the defrauding of the public in terms of the taking of public funds?
No, not initially.
What did you know initially?
We knew that there was some issues with some record keeping and some post-log signups.
Are these employees of the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, all 7 of them. Well, 3 of them are former members and 4 are current members. And I think it's in your packet of what they are.
How much money total was the public defrauded out of?
I'll let Mike answer that.
Well, I think it depends on the individual that has been charged. It goes anywhere from $2,000 to maximum possibly $100,000 when you consider the retirement benefits.
And that money you're seeking to get back?
That's correct.
And are you also seeking interest?
That is something that we are going to, it depends on the case and depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about retirement and the retirement income that this type of behavior increased, we'll be looking to the retirement board and other agencies to recover that money, and interest should be an issue. They should take that into consideration.
Which of those employees that you mentioned are
Rod, you probably know that better than I do.
Yeah. Mike Stodell, Bart Gray, and Bill Maddox.
How much money have you recovered so far? You mentioned you recovered some money.
In the very beginning, when Bart Gray retired, I believe we recovered $16,000 prior to his leaving employment with the Sheriff's Department.
Are you anticipating any more of these defendants? Can you say which of these defendants is currently still employed with the department, and the disposition of the other ones who aren't? And
Sure. So four of them are still employees of the department, but they have been placed on administrative leave as of yesterday.
What's the time frame, Ron,
Time frame of,
of the incidences from the first occurred to now?
I believe some of the records go back 10 years.
Can you explain precisely, what are they accused of having done? I mean, it's taking money, falsifying time, but how did this work?
I'm going to refer that to to the DA folks.
Right. Do you want to explain the facts and how that works?
Sure. The allegations that are contained in the indictment allege that the individuals charged were able to gain a monetary benefit by having their names placed onto sign-in rosters for courses at the Advanced Officer Training Facility. The effect of having the individual's name signed on a roster is that they received college credit for these courses that they did not actually attend. Peace Officer Standards and Training, as the sheriff mentioned, is an organization that regulates these classes and sets up certain criteria. And if you have enough time in service with law enforcement and you have a certain number of credits, you can apply for and obtain what's called a post certificate. There's a basic, intermediate, advanced, and management post certificate. And it is through this mechanism of obtaining these various certificates that certain individuals were able to increase their income, and that is how this operated.
I could answer a little bit of that. In our department, we have in our MOU agreements, if you're a sergeant and below and you have an advanced post certificate, you are eligible to receive 8% increase in your basic compensation. If you're a sergeant or higher and you have a supervisory post certificate, you are eligible to receive, according to the MOU, an additional 8%. So there is an incentive. There is an incentive for the employee to obtain their advanced post certificate or their supervisory certificate.
How many are the most certificates that were faked by any one individual?
You know,
All that in the press release?
I'm not sure. I haven't read the press release. What was your question again?
Well, for example, you said that their post certificates are basic, intermediate, advanced, and management.
Yes.
Did anybody fake all of those?
Well, the only ones that have any that play into this would be the obtainment of advanced post certificate for those that have the rank of sergeant or below, and a supervisory certificate for those that are above, because the basic and the intermediate really have no impact. I believe, again, I don't know all the details of the case, but I don't believe that a basic or intermediate post certificate issues ever came into question.
Stodell was a captain, wasn't he?
He was an assistant sheriff.
Assistant sheriff.
how did this all begin, and when?
To the best of my knowledge, it began in the fall of 2009. And I don't know all the exact details, but it was brought to our attention in the fall of 2009 that there could be some misappropriation of some post-sign-in classes out at our training academy.
You mentioned looking at records going back 10 years. Do you
Yes.
believe there was some fraud going back that far?
I don't have the details of the case, but some of the individuals, we went back 10 years because, as my understanding is, as the investigation continued, some of the records required our investigators to go back and look back 10 years.
So how far back did you discover?
I want to say it's when did we discover the fraud? I don't have that exact question.
Why were these people not put on administrative leave during the investigation?
Because we didn't have enough information to place them on administrative leave until the actual criminal indictments came out. We didn't want to damage the case.
And let me answer that too for the sheriff, is that part of a criminal grand jury is, as you very well know, it is a very closed, secret, for lack of a better term, and part of the investigation, and not even the sheriff knew what was going on as far as the evidence goes, witnesses, It is the law and the policies and procedures that we have to abide by. So it's only recently that the sheriff, other than what he knew as investigators were doing, knew of the exact charges and what we were looking at.
Did you have to verify every certificate issued?
Yes.
Every single one for the past 10 years, or?
Well, again, I don't know all the details, but I know painstaking time was spent on looking at records over 10 years ago for all of the individuals, and some of the individuals that we looked at 10 years of training records for the entire sheriff's department of all certificates. I hope I answered your question.
Are they on paid or unpaid leave right now?
They're on paid leave. Law requires you to be on paid leave.
And related to the conspiracy charges, were they all 7 working together, or were some working together?
Yeah, I think those were separate. Is that right, Dan? There were certain individuals that were conspiring together, and it's in the press packet. It'll explain it to you.
Is it possible that anyone who was not indicted could have profited from this scheme at all? Any other people implicated but not charged?
No.
Was there anyone in the department and administration that knew about this scheme going back over the past 10 years and didn't report it?
First time we knew about it, first time the administration of the sheriff's department or anybody that had, I'd say the first time we were aware of it was in the fall of 2009. Had we been aware of it before, we certainly would have taken action at that point.
What about prior administrations? Any indication?
Absolutely not.
Can you explain the process by which the training certificates, the applications are processed up through post, and how those certifications come about?
I'll give it my best shot. When you have a certain amount of time on or a certain type of degree, you apply for a post certificate. There's an application process that's done through our training academy. You have to have either a set number of hours. If you have a bachelor's degree, that's worth 4 years of service credit. If you have an AA degree, it's worth 2 years of service credit. If you don't have any degrees, you have to obtain post credits in order to apply for a post certificate. But it's certainly not automatic. There's an application process that you have to fill out, and you have to verify either your college diplomas or the classes that you've taken, and then it's verified through our training academy, and then it's sent to Sacramento, and then the post certificate is then issued by post.
So the defendants, in this case, who would be responsible for sending those certificates to post would be the training specialists?
Yes.
In this case, Angela, Gray, and Christian?
Yes.
Were all of the sign-in sheets that were falsified at the training academy, what was the involvement of Valley College?
Well, we're in partnerships with Valley College. I mean, all of our training is in associate. All training academies in the state of California, peace officer training academies, have partnerships with community colleges. Valley College happens to be our partnership campus. When students go through training, from the time they're in the basic academy, they get college credits through Valley College. So it's a cooperative effort through Valley College to get training credits.
What is the verification process for this credentialing, and where was the failure in that process, and how have you changed it to avoid a repeat of this?
You know, there's human nature involved. I mean, I was talking to Mike earlier. I mean, you can legislate and create policies until you're blue in the face, but if people want to figure out a way to beat the system, they're going to beat the system. So I could go on hours and hours about the policies that we had in place and the new policies that we have in place. I'm hoping that the policies we now have in place, there's a better checks and balance. But you know, if people want to beat the system, they're going to figure out a way to beat the system.
Can you elaborate about what some of those checks and balances are?
Well, we are. I really can't get into details because I'm not the day-to-day person working at training. But there is, I believe, you know, a supervisor has to approve the post rosters now. At least 2 or 3 people, I'm told, now have to approve the rosters before they're sent to post. I'm very confident that the procedures we have in place will not allow this to happen. I hope.
Well, how big are these training classes? I mean, are they attended by 10 people or?
They vary in size. I'm talking off the cuff here a little bit because it's been many years since I was assigned to training. But classes can be some classes can be 10, some can be 30. You know.
But I mean, if somebody sees Stadell's name on a sign-in sheet and Stadell is never in the class, there must be 10 people who knew that.
I don't know that those other people in the class would have seen that. Again, I'm not I'm not familiar enough with the intricacies of the case to state that, but I believe that was.
Were all the people who attended these classes where there were falsified attendance records interviewed by the grand jury?
Yes. Oh, by the grand jury, I'm not sure. I know our investigators interviewed everybody that showed up in the classes where there were people in question there.
And nobody saw anything, they never saw a name on there that they knew the person wasn't there?
Well, apparently they did, or we wouldn't be here today.
Who signed their names on the rosters?
I don't know for sure.
And looking at three of the defendants, we're looking at Stadell, Wilkie, and Maddox, 2 lieutenants, 1 assistant chief. Is it suspected?
Assistant sheriff.
I'm sorry, assistant sheriff. Is it suspected that these 3 attended their promotions in both the ranks of lieutenant and assistant chief fraudulently?
No, the attainment of ranks have nothing to do with this case. Absolutely nothing.
Have you heard of any similar cases around the state of California, and are you aware of any reforms by Post or the state to prevent this as a result of what you found?
No, but Post does audits all the time. They've been doing audits since Post has been in existence, and we pass every audit we've had with flying colors, to my knowledge.
Have you been contacted by other sheriff's departments asking about reforms just to ensure that doesn't happen at their departments?
No, I mentioned before, you cannot legislate or create policy that's going to create the human element. So, I mean, I don't know how else to answer that. But I have not, to answer your question directly, I have not heard from any other sheriffs or any police chiefs in the state of California that have had similar incidents. It's a big state.
Have you considered, for example, having the instructor take roll?
I'm sure that's been
Get the sign
discussed.
sheet.
I believe that has I believe that the procedures and the policies that we had on the surface, if you were the person attending the class or the person, for the most part, administering the class, everything looked fine until we looked into it. And I can't get into the details because I'm not.
Responsible for submitting the final forms to the state?
What was your question?
Who is responsible for submitting those final forms?
Well, members of our department that worked out at our academy, obviously.
It's been said that the Grays are the ones who initiated this whole thing. Bart, Angela Gray, started this, what they're referring to as a mill within the sheriff's
A
department.
mill? I've never heard that until just now. Obviously, both of their names are on the indictment, so they're part of it. But to say that they were the masterminds behind it, I don't think is accurate, whatever that means.
So are there arraignments that are scheduled?
You'd have to ask the DAs about that.
I think there were 4 that were arraigned this morning, and then the others will be arraigned tomorrow. Is that right? Friday.
Is that on the press release? Does it say who was arraigned?
I don't believe so. Yeah. Do we know who was arraigned this morning, Gary? Okay. Arraignments today were Bart Gray, Michael Stodell, Picata, and who else would that have been?
Wilkie.
Oh, and Wilkie. Okay.
And I'm sorry, the other arraignments are when?
On Friday for Angela Gray, Sally Ann Christian, and Bill Maddox.
In the event that they're found guilty, what could happen to them? What kind of jail time could they be looking at?
Well, they're charged with felonies. I think the maximum exposure is 5 years, 8 months, I think, and it's in the press release as well.
Are you expecting any of them to reach plea agreements before?
It's way too early, Cassie. I'm not sure. I'm sure they're going to get attorneys, or some have attorneys, and they will be contacting the office. And just like any other felony cases go, those will be discussions as we go through the process.
In the history of the department, how does this rank for sworn officers to be arrested on felony charges?
Well, I think anytime a sworn officer, well, anybody's arrested on these types of charges or felonies. But I have to say something. I want to be very clear about this. I've been district attorney for 8 years, going on my 9th year. This sheriff's office is one of the most outstanding offices in the state of California. And we got a handful of people that have been charged. And there was a lot of speculation out there, and I won't say where I hear it because I don't read them, about how many people were involved, and this is, the amount of money involved, and I don't mean to belittle the amount we're talking about here, but when you look at the big picture and the amount of sworn officers that have taken an oath of duty and integrity and ethics. This is, again, a very good sheriff's department. And then add to that, it was the sheriff's department that brought it to us. They didn't sweep it under the rug. They didn't sweep it under the carpet. They came to us and they opened up files. They did everything that we asked of them. And that's tough. I mean, because it's your own department. As Sheriff Hoops has said, it's not a happy day, but it's a day we'll get through because we got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of crime out there right now, and we're partners in that, in fighting that, and we're going to continue to do that. Now, in saying that, we will hold these people responsible, and if there's any other information that comes out, we will investigate that as well.
You mentioned earlier the involvement of the Riverside DA's office.
Yes.
Given the closeness of the San Bernardino County Sheriff's and DA's office, was there ever any question of involving a third party? Or?
You mean, you mean no. I think we have a reputation I hope we have a reputation that we'll do a thorough job, and it doesn't matter what agency. We've prosecuted, cases that have to do with people that we have, whether it's a personal relationship with a DA or whether it's somebody we work with. If you cross the line and commit a crime, we will handle that case, and we will do it professionally. And this is a good example of how we did that.
Was the falsification of these records solely for pay raises, or were there some who falsified just to avoid training in certain areas?
I guess that would be a question that only those individuals could answer.
Yeah.
So.
But all of them received pay raises.
I'm not sure. I don't believe so. No.
Any other questions?
Has Post been involved in trying to rescind any of these credentials that we received?
Yes. Let me address it. Yes. Early on, when Bart Gray's deal came to light, we immediately, as the department head, there's a form that I fill out or that is signed by the department head rescinding those certificates, and that was done. I don't know where we're at in the rescinding of if we're going to rescind other certificates, but I know that the one advanced post was rescinded, and there's a procedure and a policy that's been in place for many years to do that. And if other ones need to be rescinded, that will certainly occur.
So far only for Bart Gray?
To my knowledge, yes. That's the only one I've signed.
Okay, if there aren't any further questions, maybe take one more if there is. If not, we'll just call an end to this.
Well, I'm
Yes.
still a little fuzzy on how, over what length of time people were collecting salaries that they didn't deserve, they hadn't earned. I mean, you talked about going back 10 years in the record. What is the earliest that someone had falsified a certificate and then collected the pay that went on with that?
I know it wasn't 10 years, maybe 5. Again,
Is all that spelled out in the press release?
no, I don't believe it is. Is it?
Part of that will be contained in the indictment.
Yeah.
And will we have copies of those in
Yes.
the press?
Yes.
Did anybody at Post know that this was going on or implicated in
No. We advised them right away that we were doing an investigation, so Post was aware of it, and they were very cooperative because, we looked at all their records as well. So
At what point might the current employees be permanently released from the department?
that's an ongoing process. Administrative investigations can take a while. We're in the process of doing the administrative part as we speak. So,
Okay, folks,
okay, well, thank you so
very
much. Okay, thanks.
And I do